Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, going to go over an article that once again puts the blame on men because so many women are not married, or at the very least having a hard time finding the right guy. And the title of the article is Marriage Mismatch. Research shows today's single men don't meet single women's expectations. And basically this whole article is once again going to go into the fact that basically there aren't enough men that are successful enough, make enough money to be desirable to make good husbands. And the thing is this, guys, and we've talked about this before in other videos, we all know darn well that when it comes to both men and women, the list of things that they may want in a, someone they date or relationship with, or even a potential husband or wife, when it comes to guys, our lists are very short. We're pretty easy, boils down to, hey, is she good looking? Check. Does she have a good body or decent enough body? Check. Is she fun to be around? Check. That's really about it, okay? There may be a few other things, but not too much, We don't care about her having really advanced degrees. We don't care about really how much money she makes. I mean, it's nice, but it's not a major issue. We don't care if she speaks a foreign language. We don't care if she plays a musical instrument. We don't care about all this bullshit. On the other hand, you ask your average woman in her 20s, 30s, and 40s what you're looking for, and she can go on for 10 fucking minutes or longer about all these qualifications on her never-ending checklist. Just never-ending shit. So it is any wonder that they're all single and can't find the right guy because there aren't any good enough men out there, right? And so instead of just saying, hey, maybe we're a bit too picky, to put it mildly, it's easier, more convenient to just point the finger towards guys and say, oh, it's their fault. Aren't enough guys. It's bullshit, and we all know it. And it's very entertaining when these same women, after a while, find themselves alone and they complain and, they're playing the violin about their woes. But hey, you had opportunities. There are plenty of great guys out there, and you blew it. But don't put the blame on us. So once again, another article where you see how research is going to show about that, about guys. And it's definitely entertaining. And also, by the way, there's never any mention, as you're going to see in this article, about men waking up and realizing, hey, this whole marriage thing is not in any way, shape, or form what it's cracked up to be. They don't talk about that. So the article starts off saying, what's behind the current decline in marriage? New research suggests that single women's frequent complaint is actually true. There just aren't enough men worth marrying. At least not if single women require husbands whose education level and income matches or surpasses theirs. I keep telling you guys, I've said this so many times in videos, status and money is so important. The whole you-know-what movement tries to get women to think, hey, you can make more than your husband or guy, and everything will be cool and all that. It doesn't work that way. Because I've done so many articles and read so many stories about how, woman makes more than the guy, and all of a sudden she starts losing attraction for him. He's no longer desirable and seen as masculine, as a man to her anymore. Meanwhile, either he's making less money, or he's the Mr. Mom at home with the kids, and she ends up losing attraction for him, resenting him, cheating on him, and kicking his ass to the curb. Not to mention treating him like shit along the way. So this whole idea that they can make more, it's horseshit. At the end of the day, women want a guy that they can look up to, admire. And these are the guys that are successful. More successful than them, make more money than them. But as you have more and more women doing well for themselves, high status, high education, making good money, and they work for it, so I'll give them credit, they're going to have less guys higher than them. So hence, therefore, hey, there's no good guys out there. It's horseshit. But again, the notion that, thanks to the you-know-what movement, that, hey, it can be 50-50, or the woman can make more and everything will be cool, it's proven to be bullshit. Goes on to say, in a fascinating blog post at the Psychology Today website, social psychologist Teresa Donato details new research that seeks to explain the phenomenon of declining marriage. In the 1950s, about 70% of Americans were married, compared with about 50% as of last year. This statistic is especially striking when you consider that same-sex marriages is now legal throughout the United States, removing a barrier to marriage for millions of people who would not have chosen to marry someone of the opposite sex. And D. Donato notes, the percentage of people who say they have never been married has risen by 10%. To find out why marriage is on the decline, researchers Daniel Lichter, Joseph Price, and Jeffrey Swigert used Census Bureau data to compare the husbands of married women with single men currently available on the dating market. They were, in essence, testing the validity of a frequently heard complaint from single women. All the good men are already taken. You hear that all the time. Women always say, all the good guys are either married or gay. That's the line you always hear. But what is the definition of good? That can be very different depending on who you're talking to. But one thing we can all agree on is that young women, they got a list a mile long. But what's interesting is a lot of women I've noticed that are older, let's just say you can get a woman that's in her 50s, and she's been married and divorced, kids, the whole 9 yards, and now she's back dating. It's interesting because I've talked to some women like this because I worked at different gyms. A lot of people open up to me about things, female clients, and obviously people I know, they're far less picky because they've been around the block. They realize that a lot of that's ridiculous. And so it's definitely different with them. But again, you talk to the average 20, 30, or 40 something, whole different perspective. The researchers began by comparing single women with married women of similar ages, demographics, and education levels. They looked at the husbands of these married women to try to determine the characteristics that might make a man marriageable in a single woman's eyes. Then they compared these theoretical husbands with the single men that the single women in their study might meet. Their findings can only be described as depressing. The available single men turn out to be less likely to have jobs than husbands single women were presumably seeking. Theoretical husbands had a 90% chance of being employed, whereas only 70% of available men were. They were less likely to have a college degree, and the women appeared to be hoping for husbands with a 58% higher income than that of the actual available men. See? There you go. And yeah, like they said, these guys that are married obviously have college degrees or higher degrees, make more, because, again, that's what they're going to go for. So for you guys that are watching this and you actually, for whatever reason, you have in your head that you want to get married one day, okay, and you know what I think about marriage? I've done countless videos and talked about all the pitfalls and the problems with it in this day and age, and you're setting yourself up for disaster. But even after all that shit, you still want to do it for cultural reasons, religious reasons, who the hell knows. Be aware that unless you are doing very well for yourself in high status, education, you're going to have some issues, okay? I want you guys to be doing great things for yourselves to make your own lives better, to enjoy the good things in life. Because let's be honest here, the more money you make, the more money you have, let me put it this way, the more money you have after all, the more disposable income you have, the easier life can be. You have a lot more choices, a lot more options, a lot more freedom. And that makes life great. The less money you have, the less options and choices you have. And after all that, if you still want a woman, you still want a wife, that's going to help you attract that woman. But be aware, if you didn't have that kind of money, you didn't have that kind of education, all that, she probably wouldn't give you the time of day until she either learned or found she had no other options. Just be aware of that. When the researchers analyzed the data further, matching single women's assumed desired qualities in a spouse against actual available men, they found even more disheartening news. Older women would have an especially hard time finding an acceptable mate. No shit. The same was true for minority women, especially if they were African American, and for highly educated women. And when the researchers added in geography, comparing a woman's theoretical desirable husband with the pool of available men in her region, the chances of finding a mate got even worse. I have an idea. Stop being so picky. How about that? I think that will help the odds greatly. Or at least the chances of finding an acceptable mate. We don't actually know whether American women are holding out for more likely to be employed, better educated, higher earning men that are available on the dating market today. The researchers just constructed a synthetic husband they believe single women are seeking. They didn't actually ask any single women for their views, but if the researchers are right about what single women want in a husband, the statistics say many of them will be disappointed. Well, let's be honest here. You generally find it's very hard to make women happy. They're always going to complain about something. Even the most laid-back, cool women are going to complain about something. So, good luck with that department. There's going to be disappointment nevertheless. And again, where does this idea come from that we're worth it? Decades worth of brainwashing by the you-know-what movement. And not to mention the fact, thanks to this day and age of social media and dating apps, the constant validation from guys, giving them attention, liking all their pictures, commenting on them. Guys, just all this validation just builds up the ego. So, hey, we're worth it. We can get any guy. You got these women that are 6s thinking they're 10s and thinking they're entitled to guys that are 10s. Doesn't work that way. And they end up being very disappointed. How will this play out? The researchers take a straightforward view. And this is quoted as saying, the study reveals large deficits in the supply of potential male spouses. One implication is that the unmarried may remain unmarried or marry less well-suited partners, in their opinion. Honestly, neither of those outcomes seemed all that bad to me. In the 1950s, marriage was not only a matter of romance, but also a matter of economics, because incomes back then were higher in relation to living expenses. More couples could afford to have one spouse, usually the mother, as the full-time parent. At the same time, career opportunities for most women were more limited than they are now. Isn't that interesting how things were back then versus now? I don't mean to suggest that raising children as a single parent is as easy as partnering with a partner. I love the political correctness here. I'm being sarcastic when I say I love it. Or that women today earn as much as men do. In fact, research suggests that it will be 51 years until we reach gender pay parity in the United States. That's bullshit. Come on here. You know, if it wasn't fair in terms of pay, then how come all of a sudden that women can't find guys that make enough money? Right? What does that say? All these guys out there are just sitting on their ass all day watching TV and don't have jobs or don't make money, don't make enough money. Well, somebody's making a lot of money, and guess what? A lot of women are, and they're doing very well for themselves and so forth. So I don't want to hear about this gender pay parity. It's horseshit. 51 years, please. Still today, women have more choices for their careers and for co-parenting than women in the 1950s did. This may mean that staying unmarried isn't such a bad thing after all. I'm a guy, so I obviously see and feel things differently, but it's amazing to me how so many women have in their head that they must get married, and if they don't get married, they're a loser and blah, blah. Who the fuck cares? You know, I know women in their 50s have done it all, and said if they could go back in time, they wouldn't have done it. That they're happier now in their 50s, single, dating other dudes, having a good time. No pressure. Now, yes, a couple of them were married, so they can say they did that once and all that, but still. And then there's the question of who is or isn't acceptable husband material. This feels personal to me, because my husband of 19 years is definitely what the researchers would call a less well-suited partner. He has less formal education than I do, although he certainly is well-read and is smart. I've nearly always earned more than he does. Yet, ours is one of the happiest marriages I know, and we aren't unique. We've encountered a lot of happy other marriages and partnerships in which the woman earns more than the man. There may be some situations like that. Now, notice she says here that her husband of 19 years. So I'm going to guess this woman's got to be at least mid-40s, if not older. And so when they got together, it was a different ballgame then, okay? But things have changed now. It's a different world out there with regards to dating and all that. And it's been 20 more years of, thanks to the you-know-what movement, brainwashing women that they deserve the absolute best, and also thanks to social media and dating apps, which just began, well, at least dating apps 20 years ago, not to build up the egos of women to think that, again, they get all the attention. So, hey, I'm a 10 when they're really a 5. And they're entitled to the top percent when they're really not. This didn't. So I'm guessing her and her friends, that wasn't going on then. So obviously you can have a situation like hers that has been working out for her. Compared to an average 25-year-old woman today, it's not the same. She says, when we first got together, a well-meaning friend of mine tried hard to take me out of the relationship precisely because of his limited economic prospects. Yeah, her friend, this woman's happy with the guy she's with, but her friend, so-called friend, is trying to get her out of it because he doesn't make enough money. Meanwhile, she's probably happy, and her friend is probably jealous of the fact that she's happy, so she just wants to sabotage it. This is why I tell you guys, be very careful in who you choose as your friends. And because be aware, you want the ones that support you, not the ones that are going to try to tear you down and stir up bullshit. But so many women have what they call frenemies, and I've never understood why women spend time with other women that they don't really trust, that they know are manipulative, that know are going to stir up shit. Because generally speaking, guys don't tolerate that crap. At the time, she was seemingly happily married to a man who earned more than she did. A few years later, that marriage imploded and a bad divorce. So yeah, her friend, obviously things were going downhill, and she wanted her to be alone and single with her. So she tries to sabotage and says, "Hey, the guy you're with, he doesn't make enough money." Bullshit. She's just trying to sabotage it. I don't claim to have all the answers about what makes a good marriage, but it does seem to me that basing a relationship even partly on economic expectations can be a bad idea, because things change. Industries shift, companies fail, and a spouse with a high-paying job could decide one day that he or she doesn't want to do that job anymore. That actually happened to the wife of a lawyer I know. In any case, as these statistics clearly show, if you're a woman holding out for a husband who matches your education level and earns a lot more than you do, you could wind up staying single forever. Is that a better choice than broadening your idea of what an acceptable husband is? Only you can decide. Well, good for her for saying that. And obviously she's older and she comes from a different time period. Like I said, it's much different now in terms of thanks to decades of feminism and the you know what movement. Oh, I said the F word. The you know what movement, and also as well as dating and social media, dating apps and social media, building up those egos. But at the end of the day, women continue to be as picky as they are. Guess what? They're going to be alone. So just like the video I did yesterday about the world's pickiest dater, she finally dropped all her expectations. Guess what? She finally, after years of not finding a guy, she dropped her expectations, her high standards, found a dude, and in that moment, at the end of the article, she was happy and in love. So, but you can't put the blame on us. It's not our fault. You know, we're not the ones with the giant expectations. There's plenty of good guys out there. And the notion that just, hey, not enough good enough guys, and it's our fault, it's ridiculous. It's not our problem. It's not our fault. It's women's fault. It's their problem. Own up to it, and you'll be a lot happier, and they'll be able to get what they want in terms of marriage, if that's what they want. But us guys, we've woken the hell up. We know darn well, don't get married. It's a recipe for disaster on so many levels. And so for those of you guys that are thinking about it, really, really consider it before taking that big crazy leap. So, all right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.